Today I'm exploring Reticula and Fragments with you, starting from a simple teardrop grid. If you've been following Project Pack 27, this will feel familiar, but even if you haven't, it's a fun and calming way to create endless variation in your tiles. So let's just get started. My name is Lisa Crow of Creating Calm with Lisa, and I am a Zentangle teacher, certified Zentangle teacher. So today for my string, I am going to create lines. They don't have to be perfectly straight. There's a very slight curve in this one. And I'm going to basically parallel that on the other side. And I'm going to do a narrow aura line either side of each of those lines. Aura line just being when you create a line that mimics the line next to it. So essentially you're basically doing a parallel line. It doesn't need to be, if you're auraing, it doesn't need to be a straight line, because obviously it depends on the previous line that you've created. The aura line could be a circle or a triangle, depending on the previous shape that you have created. So this is my entire string. So I'm moving now onto my ink stage, and for this one I am using a Micron 05 in black, and we're going to start in the center here of this aura line and just putting down a teardrop shape like so, and we're going to alternate the direction of this teardrop shape as we go along. So sometimes the point's going to be at the top, sometimes it's going to be at the bottom. And so Molly and Martha taught a tile in the Project Pack 27 videos, and I have been playing with this ever since. It's not, I mean, to me it feels like this could actually be a tangle that you're doing step by step, but it was taught by Molly and Martha just as an unusual reticula, a reticula just simply being a name of a grid. So I'll show you what I mean by a grid once I've kind of completed the rest of the teardrop shapes, but we're essentially just creating a grid just now, just by laying down all these individual teardrop shapes. Doing exactly the same thing all the way along, and some of my teardrop shapes might end up like, you know, not exactly perfect. We're not bothering about that. It's about the process. I feel like I'm being spoiled today getting to teach 2 videos, because I've actually already filmed a YouTube video today. Next week I'm going to be away for a few days, because it's, if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I'm going to the Zenjo retreat in Glasgow next week. So I want to have my videos prepared for when I do go away. So here, what we did next, Molly and Martha did next, was they were using this aura line here. Now you don't have to, you could have it so that your line that you're using as a connecting line, we're going to connect from the point of this teardrop shape to the point of this teardrop shape. You could have it so that it goes within that aura line, or it can slightly go over that aura line. And I'm just going to make a loop here to connect those 2 teardrop shapes. And now we want to connect this teardrop shape to this teardrop shape with another loop. And you know, you could make it wacky, but I'm trying to have them all be around about the same height, but you could experiment if you wanted some to be longer than others. That might be quite fun. Just going all the way along, connecting any of your teardrop shapes that you have to the other. I'm going to turn the tile around and we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And if you wanted, you could do, like, the loops could be shallower on one side than the other. That might be one way to change it up from one time to the next. But I just love, you know, I've always talked about how different tangles remind me of different things. And depending on where you live, I might have been off camera there, apologies if I was. If you are in a country where they sell Viennetta, Viennetta's a kind of dessert that you get, and it's basically ice cream, and it must be piped or something. I don't know how it's actually produced, but it's got this kind of frilly effect at the edges of the Viennetta. It's like a big frozen cake, frozen ice cream cake. It reminds me of Viennetta. But that's just, maybe I just like my ice cream, I don't know. So we've now created what Zentangle would refer to as a reticula, but a reticula is just another word for grid. So what do I mean by that? Well, you see how we've now got all these different teardrop shapes where we could create different fragments or fillers inside of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some orbs inside each of these shapes. I'm going to turn it on its side. I find that a bit easier. So I'm just going to create one orb quite near the bottom. And then each other orb that I am creating on top of it is going to be slightly bigger than the previous one, until we have the space filled. And that's quite a nice filler. It works up quite quickly. And it looks really effective as well. And what I've done, I'll show you as usual. I'll show you at the end of the lesson some previous examples of tiles that I've drawn with these patterns. So what you can do is that you can have different fragments. You know, you can have one row so that where the points go a certain direction are all the same fragment, but then the ones on the other direction could have a different fragment, or you could have all of them be exactly the same fragment or filler. It's entirely up to you. There's so many different ways that you could fill this out, or you could have the same fragment but have them in different colours going in different directions. Sky is the limit. I think that's maybe what I'm going to do today. I think I'll have the same fragment in each direction, but I'm going to use a different colour. I think that might look quite cool. Okay. So let me see what colour I have nearby. I have a brown micron PN pen. Don't know if it's going to focus properly on that. So I don't know if I've got a micron. I don't know if I've got a brown pastel pencil handy, which would look amazing for shading. But you can still shade the different colours with standard graphite. And what I should probably get into the habit of doing with my YouTube videos is to have the video, and then I should be sharing probably sharing my previous examples in the YouTube posts. I'm going to start doing that, because then people can have that there. Even if they're not in the video, they can just have a look and see previous examples of what I've done. And I could be sharing my project pack variations as well, like, you know, because obviously different people have different ways of completing tangles and tiles. Like I mentioned previously in one of my videos that I was really chuffed to see I'd gone on to one of Zentangle's recent emails where they were talking about the project pack, and they had a few different people's tangles where they were highlighting different people's takes on this specific tile in project pack 27, and my tile was one of the ones that they had used. I was really pleased. Somebody thought it was cool enough to share it on the Zentangle email. Oops. And it goes without saying, maybe you don't feel like doing orbs in your teardrop shapes. So fill out your fragment with a different filler if you would like, and then at the end of this video I can show you different tangles, different fragments that I have used. That might give you some inspiration for how to make your own stamp on this, put your own stamp on it. So this teardrop shape here is kind of disappearing off the side, so I'm just imagining, oops, that line was a bit thick, but never mind. I'm just imagining where those individual orbs would have been on the tile. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my Micron 05 and I'm going to add an aura line. I'm putting mine a few millimeters away from that edge of the reticula we just created. You could put yours a bit closer together if you like, or a bit further away. All that I'm doing is just creating a bit of space, because I'm going to put another tangle either side of these ones. So it's just to kind of give a bit of breathing space between one tangle and the next. If you wanted, you could, you know, if you've got a size 10 micron pen, or you could even just use a thinner one and create a thicker aura line here. It's up to you. You can, in fact, I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to just make these aura lines just slightly thicker, just because I can. So yeah, just while I'm doing that, countdown is well and truly on for next week for the Zenjo retreat. Let me know in the comments if you are going, or even if you're not going this year but you've been to a previous Zenjo retreat, let me know. I know that it's going to be absolutely fabulous. I'm really, really excited about it. I'm going to miss Isla. This is going to be the longest that I've ever been away from Isla at any one time. It's ironic, I'm going to just be in Glasgow, but Glasgow's so big that it's just going to be a bit too far away for me to travel there and back. And when you're doing something like a retreat, there's people coming from all over the world. So, you know, there's people coming in from the States and various different places in Europe. I don't know how, like, what the furthest afield is that somebody's travelling in from, but you know, there's going to be people coming from all over the world, and it's nice to have the overnights with these people as well. Like, I keep going off camera, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so if I was travelling to and from every day, I would miss out on a lot of that. I don't even know if that's an option. I think it's all just residential for all ticket levels. I don't think you can just be near and go to and from. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I will miss Isla. She's telling me she's quite excited to have Daddy walk to school with her on the days that I'm going to be away, because normally my husband starts work at 8:30 in the morning. The school starts at 9, so I'm usually the one that walks Isla to school, and then we kind of take it in turns to go and collect her from the childminder at the end of the day. Well, I collect her on a Friday, but yeah, she's saying Daddy's her bestie. So she's looking forward to him walking her to work while I'm walking her to school while I'm in the retreat. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Joe and Darcy and the other Zentangle teachers who are teaching there have in store for us all. Joe's been sharing a lot of clips on her social media of, like, you know, sneak peeks into what's going to be in the packs that everyone has. And actually, like, you know, maybe I should mention here as well, Joe, even although the spaces to be in person in the retreat have all sold out, Joe is selling packs that you can buy, you know, so you can do it as a video, you can do it remotely. So if you're interested, I can share a link in my description, and then you can see about getting your video pack from Joe. I think you can buy it so that it's just the video, or you can buy the video with supplies. But I'm going to actually be able to be there in person, so that's really cool. So I'm going to move now from this section in the middle, and I'm going to pick up this is an 01, so it's just a little bit thinner than the pen that I was originally using. And either side of this Reticula, I'm going to do N-Zeppel. I can't remember if I've previously taught N-Zeppel on my YouTube videos before or not, but I'm doing crazy N-Zeppel. So you're just basically putting lines that are going in random directions. Some of them will cut across others. And so you'll have some bits that are bigger than others. So just pretty much like that. I'm not going to make my individual shapes too small, just because, you know, you can make yours smaller if you want, but I just prefer mine to be a bit on the bigger side. And then doing that on the opposite side, so you can see very much random. Oops, just curved out a bit at the bottom there. Very, very random. It's not like it's a particularly structured grid. And maybe I have another line cutting across here. So that's the first step of doing N-Zeppel. And then the second step, I think I maybe have taught this one before. The second step is that you're going to, where you've got straight lines, you're going to retrace them. And then when you come to a corner, you kind of skip over it until you come to the next straight line, which you'll retrace. So you're retracing the line, skipping the corners, retracing the line, skipping the corners. And I think it was Molly in the Zentangle crew, Maria's daughter. I think it was Molly who had originally talked about drawing N-Zeppel, so that when you're doing this, retracing the lines and skipping the corners, she said it's almost as if you've got a water balloon smooshed in to these spaces. And I quite liked thinking about these different blobs almost as a water balloon. That just appealed to me, that description. So just doing that on each and every one of these spaces. I keep drawing on my table today. I'll need to clean that up afterwards. You could choose the bits here, you could choose to have the shape being where you can see it, so you could round off the corners here if you like, but I'm imagining that I've got an end zeppel that's disappearing under that fragment, under that reticula. It's just up to you where you put your rounding. Some of them might be disappearing underneath, some of them might not be. This is one of my go-to tangles. I do end zeppel a lot. And the way that I am going to shade this today, it was actually Molly that demonstrated the shading that I do for this. And I don't tend to deviate from the shading that I'm going to do today because I just like it so much. But there are lots of different ways to shade end zeppel. You don't have to shade just that one way. So I'm just keeping on repeating that process on all of these different spaces. And then we've not got that many left to fill in. What I quite like about end zeppel is that you can fill in a reasonably big space quite quickly. So that's quite cool. Oops, didn't even draw on the tile at all there. I mean, if you ever watch Zentangle's videos, you'll see that Maria, she's got a blotter or something that she actually tangles on top of. So she uses that like as something to lean on, but she actually has tangled on the blotter itself, and that looks lovely. But I'm just inking randomly rather than tangling. I can't see I'm tangling on my desk. So that's me pretty much done with the inking. I don't think I'm going to be looking to add any more ink today. I'm just going to move on to the shading. Just as an option, I usually leave my end zeppel exactly as it is just now, but just to give you an option of a variation in case you hadn't thought about it yourself, you could choose to ink in these little bits that are left from skipping the corners. You could fill them in black if that's the tile colour that you had originally drawn end zeppel with. Excuse me. Or you could maybe fill them in a different colour, just to kind of give you an idea of ways that you could change this up. So I'm going to just go in with my pencil now, and just in case you haven't seen any of my videos before, when you're drawing Zentangle patterns, you don't actually need to use a specific pencil. This one that I'm using just now, I only ever bought it because it doesn't show up any glare or shine on the camera. But you know, if you've got no other pencils other than what your children might use to take to school in the morning, use that for your pencil. It doesn't have to be an artist grade pencil. So what I'm going to do for shading my reticula shape that the Viennetta, I'm going to call it the Viennetta, I am going to just put this pencil, just add some of that graphite on the tops of each of these Viennetta shapes. You know, if Zentangle choose to have this as a tangle pattern, maybe they could call it Viennetta. But I'll always think of it as Viennetta now that I've described it that way. And you might choose to shade yours in a completely different way. I've done, I mean, I'll show you my examples afterwards, but I've done it so that I've shaded around the seed shapes before as well. Lots and lots of different options. So just putting your pencil line down reasonably lightly, because if you are too heavy-handed, you'll find it a bit harder to smooth it out. You can always add more pencil, but if you've leaned it too heavily, it's not very easily smoothed out, so just being mindful of that. And so I'm just using my blending stump now to smooth out these pencil lines. I've actually realised that I didn't do any orbs in this little bit at the end here, so I'm just going to add them just now, just while I see that. And then I'm going to smooth out on the other side. So have you all finished the Project Pack 27 now, if you've been taking part? I just loved it. I think different people prefer different project packs, and there's just, I couldn't choose a favourite, you know, a standout favourite. Like, I mean, I've got a kind of short list. I loved Project Pack 10. Some of you will remember the little booklet that I've shown in previous lessons. You may have your own version of it. So Project Pack 10 was just about basically gathering your own collection of tangles together. So that's definitely one of my favourites. The one that's just been, I really liked that because they were focusing on the fragments and reticula. I also liked, previously Zentangle had a project pack where they were teaching on what's known as a translucency tile. I can't remember the paper that is. I think it's maybe vellum. So it's you can see like the tangles like on the other side of the page when you're using a translucency tile. I quite like that project pack. There are so many different ones, but yeah, let me know if you have been following along with the different project packs over the years. Let me know what your favourite ones have been. But yeah, as you can see now, what I'm doing is I'm just putting some graphite on my orbs here, just where the orbs look like they're overlapping one another and would be creating shadow. Don't need a lot of shade, and like I say, you can always add more if you would like more shade in. And then we're just simply going to smooth that out. It would look quite cool if you had a brown pastel pencil to kind of go in with the brown pastel pencil instead of the graphite as well. I have got a couple of the brown pastel pencils, I just don't know where they are right now. I'll find them eventually. I'm so sorry, I keep disappearing off camera today, that's really bad. I think it's because I'm using a phi tile today. Well, no, it's not an official phi tile, but I've cut it to the size of a phi tile, and I'm not as used to that shape and size, so I keep going off camera, so I do apologise. Hopefully it's not affecting your enjoyment of things. So I'm just going to go in here and just smooth out these pencil lines, just so that I'm creating a bit of shadow between this main bit of tangling and the Zentangle section. I'm going to do that on the other side. So what I like doing with Zentangle, I'm going to show you how you could shade it, but I'm not actually going to shade it, so just bear with me if this makes any sense. What I used to do with Zentangle is that I would pick, you know, the bottom right of each shape, even though they're a different shape for each one. I would maybe pick the bottom right and put like sort of like a smiley face and then blend that out. And do that on every single thing. That's the way that I used to shade it. So there's a suggestion if you don't want to shade it the way that I'm about to do it just now. But the way that I always tangle and shade my Zentangle now is that once I've done the tangling aspect of it, I put a line of graphite around all the sides of my blob. Zentangle, maybe I shouldn't call it blob. I put basically graphite all around the entire edge of that, and I think I'll just shade and blend out on this entire side before I go on to the other half of Zentangle, just so that you can see the difference between the shaded and the unshaded, because it really does make such a difference. And in my mind, it looks, once you've shaded it all out, to me it looks as if you've got like a little cluster of pebbles, and I really like that effect. I was teaching Zentangle to a class in person one day, and there was a few of them, and they were like, oh, this tangle's quite cool, I quite like it. But then once I had actually started doing the shading, they were like, oh wow, it just looks so cool. It just like, the shading just really gives it something extra. So maybe you don't like this as much as I do, because, you know, we're all different people and we have different opinions, but I just love this. And what is really cool is if you're doing this particular Zentangle and this Zentangle shading on like a Renaissance tile or a grey tile, you know, Renaissance, if you don't know, those tiles are just tan coloured paper. You can add a little bit of white pastel pencil in the centre and had an extra bit of highlight, and that looks so cool. And you see what I mean, how this is a really cool shape. I really love this pattern, but just adding that graphite, it's something else altogether. I just entirely love that. And you know, I might come in later. I don't actually have my layout pencil next to me, but my layout pencils are just like an extra dark, extra soft pencil, so that would differentiate even more between the edges of one tangle and the next. So I'm just going to shade rather in this last section before I show you the previous tiles that I've drawn, which hopefully will give you some inspiration. I always love seeing what other people come up with. Like, I remember like when I was first getting into Zentangle and just it was all new to me, I think it was Melinda Barlow, and she would always be showing these tiles, and she would get to the end and she would have all these previous tangles and tiles that she had created, and I always used to remember thinking, wow, she's created all of that. And so I know that I appreciated that myself, so I like to include examples for all of you as well. So I'm now just shading that out, blending that out even. And you don't have to be entirely perfect. You don't have to do this too slowly. Maybe be a bit more mindful when you're using the pencil rather than the blending stump. But this is really fun. And I want to add my chop as well. Where will I add my chop today? I think I might add it just in here. Your chop just being, you know, something that identifies that you created this. So for me, that's my initials, Lisa Crow LC. And I'm going to now show you some examples of previous ones that I've done. So this one, this is the first, I'll need to zoom out a bit, sorry, just shaking the camera there. This is the first tangle that I created, and this is like when I followed along with in the Zentangle video. It's different in sections than the way that Zentangle had it. So I just love how you can make this your own. A lot of it is exactly the same, like Zentangle had these little flower bits, and they had created this bit up in the corner as well. So that's very, very similar to the way that Zentangle had it, except I had the purple and blue. I think they just had the blue. You can see this one's not entirely finished yet, and I've got Inzeppel here as well, but you can see, like, just by having the different fragments, like they've got Diva Dance, which I taught that here last week. I can link to my Diva Dance video if you'd like to see how to draw Diva Dance or Tangle Diva Dance. But they've got the Diva Dance in the fragment here, whereas here I've just kind of done, it almost looks like an exclamation mark. Done that there. And then this one at the bottom, it's the same tangle, but I kind of did it more in an angular way rather than being round. So I think I started that out, instead of teardrop shapes, it was triangles. And then the aura lines obviously end up being a bit more, well, they don't, I forced them to be a bit more angular just to kind of change up how these look, because these are very curvy. So I was trying to be a bit more pointy and angular with this one. So you can change the actual shape when you're first putting your grid down in the first place. You can change how you make that grid up. Then I decided to create it in the round, so to speak. So I used my Marcus operandus, which is just a tool. You kind of place your tile on it. It's a tool you can get free from the Zentangle website, and I'll put a link in my description to where you can download that. But I used the Marcus operandus just to split my tile into, I think that's 12 different sections, and then I put my seed shapes down. That was just, when you're doing this in the round, it needs to be an even number of seeds for it to have the Viennetta shapes. But I quite liked how that worked out. And then I've got jonquil around the outsides and senna in the middle. And this one is not, you can see this is nowhere near finished, but just to show you how different that it can look when you've got less of the, or fewer of the points, the seed shapes. So it looks very, very different, but it is essentially the same thing. It's kind of almost gone a bit more angular at different bits here. So I'll share that on my YouTube posts and my social media elsewhere, like Facebook and Insta and Pinterest, once I've completed this one, just so that people can see what it looks like with more or fewer of the points to begin with. So this tile, it looks like it's been split up into 8 different bits. So yeah, there's just so many different ways that you can make this your own, whether you differentiate using different colours, whether you do it in the round, you can do it as a ribbon. I love this. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I'm going to be playing this for a long time to come. I hope you've enjoyed this video as well. If you have liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Well, like it. And I hope to see you around for another video that I teach in the future. I am here every single week. So thanks again for watching, and have a good week ahead, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.